Todd Phillips set the world on fire with Joker in 2019, deconstructing the concept of a comic book movie and exploring the interesting directions you can take an iconic character like the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix proves his generational talent in every second of his performance as the disturbed Arthur Fleck. Let's break down Joker.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And today, with the release of Joker Folie à Deux imminent, we thought we would break down Todd Phillips' first film in the DC universe with Joker. His collaboration with Joaquin Phoenix was one of the biggest surprises of 2019. Now, 2019, remember, one of the most successful years ever in movies, if not the most successful, thanks in part to movies like Joker, which made over $1 billion. And who would have thought that an R-rated movie about the Joker would make that much money? I think it blew everybody's doors off, and I was absolutely blown away when I saw the film. I remember clearly in the theater on my first watch, honestly not really loving it about halfway through, but then once the big moments start happening, I was absolutely floored, and by the time we got the full transformation into Joker by the third act of the movie, I was all aboard, and I found it to be like a transcendent, one-of-a-kind film in the genre. It still is, and I really love the sequel. I can't wait for everybody to watch Joker Folie à Deux next Friday when it comes out. But in the meantime, let's break down with an epic episode of the podcast, Joker.
Yeah, I had a different experience. I loved Joker from the first second it started to the end, and I think it has such a sensational third act that is one of my all-time favorites. And revisiting the movie after seeing Joker Folie à Deux a week and a half ago and then revisiting Joker a couple days ago was a really interesting experience because, as we'll talk about Joker Folie à Deux in that episode, that movie is so much a natural or an organic sequel to the style of the filmmaking in the first film, and a lot of people complaining about the musical elements without even seeing the movie yet. Whereas you look at Joker, this movie has so many musical elements. Me and Anthony, I think on our own terms, counted how many dance numbers are in this movie. This movie ends with singing. So there's singing and dancing in this movie. There's a musical on a TV screen in this movie. So Joker had so many musical elements of it. And making a sequel in a direction of not so much a musical like La La Land, but more of a mix between that and this just makes sense. When you revisit Joker, it's all connected. And Joker was just such a huge hit that no one really predicted with the success of the box office of $1.07 billion. Now, when it was going into its opening weekend, it was projected to have a really, really good opening weekend, but no one could predict what it came out with $96 million at the North American theaters domestically in its opening weekend.
For a rated R movie.
Rated R movie. Again, it's a huge character, an IP. It also made $39.9 million on its first official day of release, including $13.3 million from Thursday night previews, besting at the time Venom's October record for the month of October. It also had the biggest October opening day of any film, beating out Halloween in 2018. And then it went on to break Venom's record of having the biggest October opening weekend ever, and then finishing with that 96 opening weekend and topping out at $1.07 billion at the box office on a budget of just $55 million, coming out in 2019, directed by Todd Phillips, written by Todd Phillips and Scott Silver, who also wrote The Fighter and 8 Mile. And don't forget, we did an interview with Todd Phillips last week on our show, so go check that out on YouTube. We'll also put that inside the Joker Folie à Deux episode next week as like a little bonus little thing inside that episode. Rotten Tomatoes is a little divisive on this film. Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 69% for Joker, 89% for audience score.
Nice.
IMDb has Joker at an 8.4 with over 1.5 million ratings. That puts it at number 83 on the all-time user rating list. Letterboxd, it's a 3.9. It had 11 Academy Award nominations. It won 2. It won Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix, and then Best Original Score for Hildur. One of the tur. I'm going to mess up her name every time I say it, so I'm just going to say Hildur.
We'll call her Hildur.
And then in September 2019, before the theatrical release, Joker was awarded the Golden Lion at the festival for Venice International Film Festival in in 2019, the 76th annual one, which is the highest honor, Best Picture, basically, award of that festival. Joker has a runtime of 2 hours and 2 minutes. It was filmed from September 2018 to December 2018. Its locations, it was shot entirely in New York City as well as some in New Jersey. It was shot on 35 millimeter film for the opening credits. However, then they opted for RE65 for digital for the rest of the movie, except for the Live with Murray segments, which were shot on video, and then it was printed for theaters in 35 mil, 70 mil in D-Cinema, obviously digital cinema.
Wow.
Produced by Bradley Cooper, Todd Phillips, and Emma Tillinger-Koskoff. A quick synopsis: set in 1981, Joker follows Arthur Fleck, a failed clown and aspiring stand-up comedian whose descent into mental illness and nihilism inspires a violent counterculture revolution against the wealthy in a decaying Gotham City.
I love those technical specs and even shooting the TV segments on actual video.
Yeah.
And they definitely did that in some capacities in the sequel. There's definitely TV elements as well. And it looks right when you see it. It doesn't look like it's, a high resolution, incredible cinema camera that has effects on it to look video. But this is an incredible display of a very strong visual language that you rarely see in comic book genre movies, and that's what really set Joker apart, where you have this incredible production design, and there's no full CGI shots at all. There's very little CGI in this movie whatsoever. There's some CGI super rats in the background. They're actual super rats that are mentioned like in the news. And then we get a couple of signs are CGI'd and a little bit of texture in the background, but otherwise they built all these sets. They recreated those downtown looks in New York City. And so much is for real, but the visual language is so strong, and especially the lighting. And this is a lighting style Lawrence Sher and Todd Phillips use with this film of heavy amounts of color contrast, as well as long lenses to create a more personal approach to capturing Arthur. Hence, very long lenses, out of focus backgrounds, especially with Arthur. And it separates him from the world, and it connects the audience to him so we can really understand his strife and his personal struggle. But it's really the lighting. This is a lighting style that's become like heavily duplicated in the last several years.
Attempted to be duplicated.
They did a beautiful job with this movie, and it's why like every music video now looks like this, especially in certain kinds of genres. And a lot of DPs are basically copying and pulling from what Lawrence Sher and Phillips did with this film, all mostly practical lighting. You're seeing every light and you're seeing every fixture. But again, the color contrast, lots of yellows contrasting with blues, greens, and yellows, as well as helping tell the story. But one of my favorite parts about this film is what so many people don't fully realize when you're photographing things, exteriors, is it's not just important to shoot a certain place, but the time of day you shoot something is vital. And so in this film, there's an incredible cinematography of dusk and dawn. You have these Arthur, and it's part of Arthur's journey very much in the first act of traversing the streets of Gotham, either right at dusk, at dawn, in the evening. And the city's bathed in this beautiful, soft blue light. And we contrast that beautifully with yellow lanterns, yellow lamps, some tungsten, but some really incredible yellow-blue contrast of colors that's done naturally with the dusk shooting. And it's so integral where the city shots, same thing they did in Joker Folie à Deux as well. It's just stunning and breathtaking. And that comes to, having a lot of care as to what you're shooting in. I'm sure it was tough to work the schedule out to shoot. We want to get these 12 exteriors, but we have to shoot them at 6:58. We have a 20-minute window. I mean, I can't think of many large-scale productions that would allot that much time just for one shot, just for a visual cue. And so that's just one of many examples that show the artistry that went into Joker and really made it separated it from the pack of the genre.
I have to correct you on something.
What's that?
There's actually a ton of CGI in Joker.
Okay.
An absolute staggering amount of invisible visual effects.
Oh, man.
So Joker has so much invisible visual effects, but it's done so seamlessly, like a David Fincher film, that you don't notice it. So this movie was shot in New York City, and the team wanted Gotham to not look like Gotham we'd ever seen before. They wanted it to feel like 1970s, 80s New York City. So they shot in New York City, but what they did was they digitally eliminated so many things that you would recognize in New York, buildings, bridges, stuff like that. And digitally,
For our New York.
yes,
Yeah.
for our New York, and
Gotcha.
digitally replace that with other things, other artifacts from this new world. They also did things like making the entire city feel like it was declined, dirty, weathered. They talk about the trash, how there's trash everywhere. It smells. Visual effects was used to make trash bags and trash all over the sidewalks, all over the streets. The graffiti everywhere. All of the graffiti in Joker is pretty much done in post-visual effects. Even the graffiti on the subway train. So if you look at behind-the-scenes videos and photos of that metal subway train, behind the scenes it's just clear. It's just pristine metal. But all the graffiti everywhere is visual effects put in post-production. They even made the buildings, whenever they were shooting in the city areas, they would make buildings taller just to make it look like it was dwarfing Arthur and to make it look like he was being suffocated by the city at the same time. Filming at real locations but enhancing them with CGI. For example, Arkham, the hospital, is actually the Brooklyn Army Terminal, which is a building in New York, obviously in Brooklyn. What they did with this, there's that really iconic shot when Arthur's going to check on the files of his mother to learn some information. He's walking across the street and we see Arkham Hospital in a bridge it's like a bridge
Those
connected
arcs.
to a building.
Yeah.
Those big arcs. So what they did was that actually arch is really there. That tunnel, that bridge is really there. What they did was they extended it about like 20 feet up with CGI, and where it says Arkham Hospital, it's all fake. It's CGI engraving. So they extended that building, and then they added maybe 20 stories of windows and floors to the main building as well. City exteriors, of course, they're shooting in New York City, but they're not shooting in Town Square. They're not shooting in the financial district. They're shooting in areas where you could get maybe one or two skyscrapers slightly in the distance. And then down the street, they would just fill in so much space with CGI, visual effects, skyscrapers, and buildings with some fog. So when you're looking down these streets, even when you're looking down alleyways, there's almost no blue sky ever. You never see the blue sky in this movie. It's a movie similar to Seven. You never see sunshine and rainbows. You never see the light from the sun, really. You just see overcast. If you see the sky, you see fog. And even when you're looking in between buildings, looking in between alleyways, they're filling in with visual effects, backgrounding. They're putting buildings in there just to destroy any space that could be created from a sky. Blood splatter was also done with visual effects in Joker. For example, we have a couple shootings in this movie. We have the shootings of the Wall Street guys on the train. Then we have the iconic shooting of Murray on Live with Franklin Murray. All these blood shots, these blood splatter shots, were done with visual effects in post-production. And they're very impressive because they went to great lengths to get this. And what they did was they used LiDAR, which is a really advanced piece of technology for light detection and image ranging. So they would use this in their sets. They built the sets and they used LiDAR to get an internal reading and a dimensional reading digitally of the environment, all the props, everything on the walls, the entire apartment. They did this for, obviously, Joker, Arthur and his mother's apartment. They did this for the interior of the train. They did this for the Live with Murray sets. And then on their software, they're able to recreate these three-dimensionally, and they're able to find the perfect X and Y axis and locations of where the blood splatter is supposed to hit based on what the angle of the shot, where the camera's supposed to be. So they can get really incredible blood splatter landing on walls correctly, because a lot of movies do blood splatter CGI, but one of the honky things about that sometimes is if it doesn't land right, it lands two-dimensionally compared to what we're looking at versus being three-dimensional because it's a real set. Now, this LiDAR detection and all creating these digital models allows them to make really advanced-looking blood splatter as it slams against the wall. So, contrary to popular belief, this movie has a ton of visual effects.
Someone did his research.
Oh, I sure did.
But you're right. There's really no empty space in the city, and that's what it makes you feel suffocated. And even on that wide shot, when he's following his neighbor, we start with an overhead wide of the entire city with the train line in the middle. Even that has the horizon line at the very top of the frame. So even with that shot, there's hardly any empty space at all. And you really felt that in the city, and there's so much texture and so much detail to the city, and it feels like a mess, and it feels like chaotic, and it adds to society and the decay and the crumbling culture and physical mess of the world around him is part of what has fed into this mental disillusionment for Arthur. And I really love all that. That's absolutely wonderful.
And to stay on empty space, I think the cinematography and blocking in this movie, it's really well thought out and done so well. And this movie has so many great following shots of Arthur. You know, there's maybe 20 or 30, whether he's walking down a street or, you know, the one where it's raining after he finds out all this terrible information after murders. He's just walking by himself with these full frame wides and wide shots of him just walking forwards. We're tracking and following him from behind. And there's just empty space all around him. And I think that's a great technique to show how alone he is. You know, he's in a city full of people, but he's probably the loneliest person there. Even in a crowd, Arthur Fleck is alone. And I think that's a great way to show how alone he is by having these large, wide frames following him, and there's no one near him.
And also with the lighting. So an example is when he does a stand-up comedy routine, which is like, I've never felt more embarrassed in a theater, I don't think, than watching Arthur do a stand-up. I remember just like sweating and cringing as he was trying to get that first joke out. But if you look, you can't even see the crowd. It's a packed house, but the way they lit it is everyone's in darkness. And the only real lights we see are the red lamps on the tables, and those aren't even bright enough to provide any light or fill for the faces of the people sitting there. And then we just see some lights of the room interior and the ceiling in the background. That's it for that lighting. And then he gets that spotlight on him, and it's as if that spotlight is like an interrogation room light. It feels like, and he's at such an uncomfortable situation. There are so many elements of the lighting and, like you said, the visual effects that are helping tell the story. And with that, he's like in this sea of darkness. He's completely all alone. Even though he's in a room full of people and everyone's looking at him, he's still alone. And part of that is the reason why...
That's great to point out, because when there's the other comedian, he looks fine.
Exactly.
Like you're on stage with him and it's well lit.
Exactly. Because Arthur is so disconnected from the world, even his sense of humor is disconnected. He laughs at the wrong moments. He finds weird stuff funny. His sense of humor is completely different from everybody else in society. And that's why at the stand-up show, when he's doing research, watching the other comedian, he's laughing at all the wrong parts. And then when the crowd's laughing, he's like, okay, why are they laughing? And he's trying to fit in with their laugh. He's like looking around like, why?
I didn't realize I could do the Arthur Fleck laugh.
Yeah, not bad, man. Hopefully you don't do it too much this episode.
I don't know. It's a Joker episode.
Well, I actually have a great fun fact about the laughs.
Cool.
There are 3 kinds of laughs. So there's plenty of laughing in this film, and it's a funny story of when Joaquin was trying to figure out the laugh. He would send videos to Todd Phillips, and he said multiple times there were times when Todd Phillips would just be like, yeah, that's not it, man. But that's a part of being an actor, and that's what makes Joaquin so incredible, is for something like this, you have to be fearless. What makes Joaquin great is his fearlessness. He goes out there, and he just enters the world. He enters the space, and he is open to it. A lot of actors, they aren't on his level because it's difficult to let go that much. And as an actor, you have to be able to be embarrassed in front of dozens of people on set, and you have to be able to be comfortable with just making mistakes and messing up and being silly and being ridiculous and trying things. And being a great actor means you need to really let go of all of your fear. That's what makes him so great. And that's why his performances are so unpredictable. That's why he has so much great improv, because he enters his character and he lets it happen in his surroundings, in the environment. Like him walking into the fridge. Like that was an unplanned take. They were just shooting him in the kitchen. I guarantee with this movie, after a few days of filming, him and Sher were like, just roll. Just let him do his thing. You can tell there are multiple moments like him just shaking his legs on the couch for like a 5-second shot. They probably just put him in a room and rolled for an hour to see what would happen. You know what I mean? In that kitchen, walking into the fridge, that was completely improvised by Joaquin. Nobody knew he would do that.
When he walks inside the fridge?
He opens the fridge, takes all the shelves out. He steps inside and closes the door. And the camera, after a few moments, it moves forward like handheld. So I bet Phillips was
Todd probably like tapped his shoulder.
He's like, go in there, get in there. Because they're all probably like, what's going to happen? I guarantee that. And so there's a fearlessness to Joaquin's performance. And the most showy part of it is the laugh. You know, the Joker laugh, we've heard so many. Heath Ledger's became the Joker laugh of the century, especially with that fucking first teaser trailer. Everyone was like, oh my God, did you hear that laugh at the end of it? And it's such an integral part to the character. How do you do it? How do you do something different? And this whole film, this movie Joker is deconstruction of the genre, deconstruction of these kinds of characters. And so the whole movie has this tone of, how do we think outside the box? How do we do something different? And the Joker laugh, in my opinion, is absolutely phenomenal in this, and it's one of the reasons that really, I think, helped Joaquin tap into the character, because I guarantee once he nailed the laugh, they were able to build off of it. But like I said, there are 3 distinct laughs. So there's the laugh of affliction. Now, that's the laugh that he can't control. And that's the laugh that it seems to like cause him pain. We first see it on the bus when, after he's making the little kid giggle, the mom tells Arthur to stop bothering his kid, creates a moment of where he is insecure and afraid, and that causes his uncontrollable laughter. And it looks painful.
Yeah, he chokes.
And he chokes. And in the therapy session, the next scene, he's choking on his laugh, and his therapist obviously knows to just let it get it out. But it takes him a good 30 seconds to get that laugh out, and it doesn't enjoy it. You know, it looks like it's causing him so much turmoil and suffering. So that's his affliction laugh. And then there's the one of the good guys laugh, which is what they called it, where he's trying to blend in with laughter. So when he's watching the stand-up comic for research, and the crowd's laughing, but Arthur's not laughing, he'll add his own laughter while looking around like, am I laughing right? He'll be like, ha, 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 ha. But he's looking around, trying to blend in with normal society in the normal sense of humor, or what he says society deems as funny or not. You know what I mean? And so that's the laughter where he's trying to blend in. The other time he does that is when he's in the locker room of the clown company, and then the tall guy makes a funny joke about the little guy. I can't remember off the top of my head what the joke is.
It was...
You know what I'm talking about, though,
yeah.
right? He makes a joke about his height.
No, he's like, it's if you play mini golf, you just call it golf.
Yeah, exactly. And then the guys start chuckling, and then Arthur lets out this ridiculous, over-the-top laugh. And he's laughing, ha, 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 as he's leaving the locker room, and he enters the hallway, and he stops. It cuts off. He was acting. He was trying to blend in with the other guys. He didn't understand why it was funny. The other guys were laughing. He saw people laughing, so then he puts on his fake laugh. And then there's the authentic, joyful laugh, which we get to see multiple times, predominantly in the end when he's in his therapy room. And it's not a disturbing laugh. It's actually like a laugh that is very normal in a way. You know what I mean? He's actually enjoying the moment. He thinks of a funny joke. Clearly, with the edit,
You wouldn't get it.
you wouldn't get it. Todd Phillips cut to Bruce Wayne with his parents in the alley, so you can imagine Arthur was thinking about the kid with the dead parents. He probably saw on the news that Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne were murdered. That's what he thinks is funny, and he's letting out a genuine laugh. And the counselor is like, what's funny? You want to tell me? He's like, you wouldn't get it. And that's also him realizing that my sense of humor is my own and nobody else shares it. But that's his true laugh right there.
And I would say that he has a little bit of a chuckle that's organic with the Murray situation when he's on Murray Live, and he's letting out these little chuckles.
That's
Todd,
the
when he
authentic.
finally confesses to the killings and everything, he's like being very playful, and I think that's a bit of it's a laugh he's holding in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But that's a great point. That's a great little tidbit of information. I like all those.
Look at
little
us,
laughs.
man. Look at us.
That's pretty cool.
Look at us.
I'd love to talk about the development of this film.
Let's hear it.
So, Joaquin and Todd were sort of in their own lanes trying to figure out a path with a comic book movie. And between 2014 and 15, Joaquin Phoenix, he expressed interest to his agent in acting in a low-budget character study type of film about a comic book villain, like the Joker possibly. And he said, this has been reported in interviews with him about 1 or 2 years before Phillips started creating his idea for the Joker, which he started in 2016. And after he came out with his movie War Dogs, that's when Phillips was pitching his idea for Joker to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, there's a Warner Brothers movie.
And so, Phoenix, we all remember, was actually offered Doctor Strange back in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
He was their number one pick. And that movie came out in 2016, Doctor Strange. And so Marvel was heavily trying to recruit Joaquin Phoenix. They'd done it earlier for Hulk, but then they started trying to get him for Doctor Strange, but he didn't want to do it. He declined it because he didn't want to be a character that had to keep reprising a role. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, he's great as Doctor Strange. He's done it like 7 times right now.
Yeah.
He has to keep going. And
Joaquin would have dropped out after 2 times.
Yeah, and then Joaquin was thinking about the Joker. He's like, I don't think I could do this with the Joker, this character study film, this low-budget movie about a villain, because the Joker's been done so many times before. I can't just do that until, Todd Phillips was starting to develop his idea with Scott Silver. And so Todd had been offered to direct comic book films in the same way that Joaquin was offered to act in comic book movies, but he turned them down numbers of times because, he didn't like the style of filmmaking basically. And he was a huge director, doing the Hangover franchise was massive. He was probably really in demand for a lot of studios for different things.
And he's been at Warner Brothers for a while. Yeah. He's made huge hits for them.
Big box office for Todd Phillips movies. I mean, he's been directing since freaking Road Trip in 2000. Road Trip in 2000 was directed by Todd Phillips. Road Trip in 2000.
You might be right.
Was directed by Todd Phillips. I am right.
Okay. You can feel. You look really. I've never seen you this confident before in my life.
Look it up, bro.
I'm not going to question you because you look really confident.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. I've never seen that in your eyes.
I was like, he did it. But he was. He wanted to make a grounded comic book movie, and he was attracted to the Joker because he didn't think there was a very definitive portrayal of the character, which is kind of a good point. He's never a lead character in movies. He's always a supporting character and, limited screen time. But he thought if you do a whole film about the Joker, the amount of creative freedom would be considerable. And so he wrote the script with Scott Silver through 2017. It took them a year to write it. And they were inspired, obviously, by Martin Scorsese pictures. Taxi Driver, The King of Comedy, obviously have huge parts of the DNA influence from Joker on those movies.
I mean, even the red suit is not far off from Rupert Pupkin's red suit.
And Scorsese was a director that the studio wanted to court for a producer and try to get involved for directing.
Well, but he was attached to Joker for years.
For directing, yeah. But he decided to turn it down. And then he eventually got the green light, really, and he really saw the character as Joaquin Phoenix, and that's who he wrote it for. The studio wanted Leonardo DiCaprio, and they thought if they got Leo, they could coax Scorsese into the project as well, but that didn't work out. And Todd Phillips, he wrote it for Joaquin Phoenix. And when we were talking with Todd last week, he brought up Joaquin Phoenix and talked about how, and we asked him about, not why your style has changed, but, you did so many comedies, do an action comedy, and now you're doing these very complex, dark movies with Joker and Joker Folly Do. And he talked about, he's like, I still want to do comedy. It's not that I don't want to do comedy anymore, but also it depends on who I get for a project, and that sort of shapes my mold of my story. And having Joaquin Phoenix, if I can get Joaquin Phoenix as a Joker character, imagine what I could do with that kind of guy acting in that role. And that's where his stories come from, is basically, in the tone comes from who he can work with.
Attracting great actors like Joaquin.
If he made it with Leo DiCaprio, it'd be a totally different movie. And I think that's what's really interesting about Joaquin Phoenix and how much power and gravitas he brings to a story, but also Todd Phillips knowing and respecting the fact that actors can bring so much of the narrative to a story and change it for the better. It's really interesting to see and hear that, Joaquin Phoenix really is the definitive version of this Joker. No one else could have done it like him.
Yeah, the Joker performance in this is really fascinating because there's the physicality element to it, not just how he looks, but how he behaves and moves. And with something like The Master, that was the first time I saw Joaquin lose a lot of weight for a role. He lost 11 kgs, and Paul Thomas Anderson and his DP, they shot that film in a way where they were taking advantage of, the look of Joaquin, especially with the shirt off and his posture, and he like this, everything he wore was so big on him. It was like a David Bowie suit, you know what I mean? And he lost a lot of weight for that, and that was the first time where you saw that element to any of his roles. And then with this film, he lost 52 pounds of weight to play Joker.
You're not going to put that in kilograms?
I don't know the math.
You went kilograms into pounds. Pick one. I know we're American, but
we have an international audience.
It's 24 kilograms.
We have several people who listen to us in the UK.
It's 24 kilograms. 24 pounds.
That's a lot. It's a lot. 52 pounds is a lot. I mean, that's probably more than a third of Joaquin's weight.
That's like a first grader.
Yeah. But he did use the same doctor who helped him lose weight for The Master. So they had a familiarity with it, and he did it again with Joker Folly Do, although Joaquin said, I saw in the interview at Venice, he said he's probably never going to lose weight like this again just because he's 50. That's not good for your body, especially at an older age.
He's so skinny in Folly Do, too.
I think he might be skinnier than in this one.
It's tough to tell because he shot the malnourishment of his body in different ways.
Yeah, and
versus like that back overarching like werewolf shot from behind.
Yeah, in the locker
more
room.
of it showing from like these interesting shots from the front when you see the movie.
And the weight, I think it changes Joaquin's face. So you have the weight on his, you see it in his face, and then you see it in his posture. And then Joaquin described, when he lost the weight, it changed the way he moved, because there's probably more ability for flexibility and putting your body in different shapes and positions and angles. And then Phillips and Cher taking advantage of the lighting opportunities and the framing possibilities with the interesting dynamic shapes of his posture, of his body, of seeing his bones or his ribcage or the striations of his muscles. And it just added so much to it. But then on top of that, Joker's, whenever, from the first time I saw it, I saw Buster Keaton in the performance. You know what I mean? I saw Charlie Chaplin. He was heavily influenced by the silent film stars, and he brought that to the performance, not just to his dance numbers, like the one in the doctor's office, but to the way Arthur moves and the way when Arthur's having fun. When he's enjoying what he does, you get the Buster Keaton feel to it. You know what I mean? And then also, to maintain the weight loss, he actually had to do 500 calories a day while filming, which is unbelievable. I mean, that's absolutely insane. 500 calories a day. That's just the amount of mental focus you need to have to be able to do that. This is a long shoot. They probably did this in about 3 months, I would say. But there's something to the physicality that, blended perfectly with Todd Phillips' desire for music to be really a main element for Arthur's transformation into Joker. And, I mean, everyone's complaining, not everyone, but a lot of people are complaining about Joker 2 being a musical. This is a very musical-esque film. There aren't singing numbers throughout the course of the film, but there are literal dance sequences in this film, and it's very much structured like a musical. And we see that in the physicality. We see that in how he moves, and obviously the most famous example is the dance in the bathroom. And the dance in the bathroom is absolutely a highlight of the film. From what I read, neither Phillips or Joaquin knew what they were going to be doing in that bathroom. They knew it was the aftermath of the shooting, and he was going to be wrestling with what just happened. And I read that they were struggling to figure out what to do. They played Hildor's score, because Hildor made the score before they were finished filming. So Phillips was able to play it for Joaquin and play it for himself. And they played the music, and then this physical performance basically erupted out of Joaquin. And this dynamic dance it's like a blend of Tai Chi and physical energy and exertion in this slow motion ballet. It's a really fascinating scene. And Joaquin said the film and the performance of the Joker took off after that moment. So luckily they filmed that pretty early in the shoot where they were able to build off of that. And then we get to see the weird physicality when he's waiting to come out on the Murray show, and like that set PA is just staring at him because he's like slowly rising his arms and bending his back. And there's this incredible stature. And when Arthur walks in the city, he's got this slouch, and when he runs so awkwardly.
Heavy feet.
Yeah, heavy feet, and his run's kind of funny, but also just like you're kind of sad for him. He's so incapable physically. He shrugs a lot, and he hunches constantly, even when he's sitting. He's afraid of everything. He's afraid of the world around him. And then when he becomes Joker, he's strutting. He's got his chest out. He's like ripping butts, like whatever. He's talking shit to the cops, and he's dancing. He's having fun. The transformation of the physicality of Arthur into Joker, there's just so much to it. And I mean, these are things that, another actor wouldn't have brought. Like, this wasn't on the page. Like, Joaquin pulling his mouth with his fingers, that was improvised.
That's a reference to the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz.
Oh, amazing.
The smile with the two fingers on each hand with the blood.
Well, I'm talking about when he's looking in the mirror.
Oh, in the mirror.
Pulling his smile open.
Crying and smiling.
That was done in improvised take. That wasn't planned. That wasn't written. And then they put that for parts of the movie. He does it to Bruce Wayne. He does it again later in the film. Like, these are physical elements that an actor of Joaquin's caliber and his creative genius brings to the movie when you let him do his thing and you put him in an environment that feels real and you let him go. You're gonna get nothing. You're just gonna get magic like this.
The the Little Tramp from Charlie Chaplin, the iconic character, is definitely a huge influence, especially the dancing, like you said, the movement. And obviously they even reference Modern Times, the Charlie Chaplin movie in this movie. That's the screening that Arthur sneaks into where he sees Thomas Wayne during the protest outside the building, the theater. That's Modern Times. It's one of Charlie's most popular films, but I definitely see the influence there as well. And there's also a comic book influence on this movie, even though it's really just original. And the screenwriters sort of like cherry picked like specific things here and there. They didn't base it on a comic book or anything. But, you know, you can't help but realize that the premise is obviously inspired by Batman the Killing Joke from 1988 from Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, graphic novel which depicts Joker as a failed stand-up comedian, while the climactic talk show scene was inspired by a similar scene in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns in 1986. But besides that, you know, like we talked about, the insane influence of Scorsese films on this is everywhere. And there's even controversy with Jared Leto in this movie because at the same time, remember, Jared Leto was also the Joker.
Yeah.
He was Joker in the DCEU. And according to Kim Masters and Boris Kidd of The Hollywood Reporter, Jared Leto, who portrayed the Joker in the DCU at the same time, was displeased with the existence of a project separate from his interpretation of the same character. In October 2019, Masters reported that Leto felt alienated and upset when he learned that Warner Brothers, which had promised him a standalone DCEU Joker film, let Phillips proceed with Joker, going as far as to ask his music manager, Irving Azoff, to get the project canceled. Masters added that Leto's irritation was what caused him to end his association with the Creative Artists Agency, CAA, as he believed his agents should have told him about a Phillips project earlier and fought harder for his version of Joker. However, sources associated with Leto deny that he attempted to get Joker canceled and left the CAA because of it.
Well, if there's smoke, there's probably some fire.
Well, I remember that was a controversy. Yeah. You know, that was because there were two Jokers operating at the same time, which I don't think is a big deal because they're so different, so unique. And
we're about to have two Batmans.
Yeah, Jared Leto's Joker is hardly even in that movie. You know, it was a big disappointment for that movie, which isn't that well liked. But at the end of the day, this is completely different. And I think that's why it works so well, is because it's so unique. And it just takes the comic book world and flips it upside down on its head and explores really interesting themes in this movie. You know, we're dealing with things like mental health. We're dealing with fantasy versus reality. We're dealing with social hierarchy. We're dealing with the destruction and deterioration of a city and of an entire community. And we're dealing with poverty. And we're dealing with media portraying people in specific ways, media sensationalism, which is critical in the story. You know, Arthur's transition to Joker is fueled by a lot of media coverage of his actions, because we obviously have after he does the killings, and then the media starts lifting up this crazed killer clown, this maniac killer clown on the loose. And what happens is the society starts to glorify that violence, and it's based off media perception and impact because it's shown everywhere, on newspapers, on TV. What happens? People start connecting their frustrations with the system, their anger, their class struggle, their inequalities. They start associating that with this image, this sort of accidental martyr, not martyr, this accidental symbol of a Joker figure who killed these guys on a train who were wealthy, privileged people, because this movie is very anti-rich. There's an anti-rich movement going on in the city in Gotham. It's on newspapers, it's on t-shirts, it's on signs. And they're drawn to this clown who committed this murder and are using that symbol of a clown because not only is he the killer of those people, this clown, but also Thomas Wayne in an interview calls anyone who hasn't made anything of their lives a clown. And so everyone who's not part of the wealthy class, the wealthy elite, or everyone who's in poverty or struggling, anyone at these protests, they're using the symbol of the clown, which Arthur accidentally set fire to.
Mm-hmm. And this is a movie that, you know, respects the audience and tells the story in a way where the audience is taking part in understanding Arthur. Whereas, you know, something like the Suicide Squad iteration, Joker has how crazy he is tattooed all over him. You know what I mean? Whereas this one has a lot more respect for the audience, and let's make a more nuanced, detail-oriented, performance-specific version of the Joker where the audience can really do a lot of their own work while watching the film. You know what I mean? Interpreting things. I mean, there's a lot of incredible, like you said, blocking in the film, and that has a lot of meaning. You know, the staircase is an iconic part of this movie. It's in the poster. They revisited it in the sequel. That's not a spoiler. It's in the posters. The staircase is vital, and it's such a great representation. And this is something that you don't see generally in this kind of movie, like an image or an object that has a metaphorical importance to the story. And this staircase that Arthur walks up every day, it's a struggle for him to get up there. He's always shrouded in dark blue light. And, you know,
does it at the end of a long day, which is always a tough day.
It's always difficult for him to get up those steps, and it's such a long way up. And then obviously you contrast that with him dancing his way down in the third act. And this has so much integral meaning to Arthur as a character. You know, him walking up the staircase, that's the ascension up the steps represents Arthur and the incredibly difficult struggle it is for him to fit in with society. Going up those steps is him trying to become so quote unquote normal or deemed normal by society. And that's why it's so difficult for him. It's a struggle, and society won't accept him no matter what he does. He's just climbing a mountain he'll never get over. But then you contrast that with the descension down the steps. He's descending into madness, but he's accepting himself. That's why he's dancing and celebrating and humping the air and gyrating. And it's a reason why he doesn't dance up like you would think, like getting up that hill and accomplishing that goal. That's something to dance about and something to celebrate for. But for him, he's celebrating his descent because that's who he is. His descent into madness and his rejection of society. And so that's why he goes down when he celebrates and goes up when he's falling down, technically, physically and mentally.
I think there's a massive misconception about this movie where I think people believe Joker and Arthur to be a hero. They believe him to be a hero of his story. They believe him, I guess if they're not paying close enough attention, to be a hero for the city and a criminal mastermind and a planner.
Like the Prince of Gotham.
Yeah. But he's not. Arthur's not a criminal mastermind. You know, Arthur is somebody, at the end of the day, is someone who has obviously mental health issues. He has what his mother had, fantastical delusions. And we'll talk more about that, but he has that same disease that his mother had. She passed it on to him, which is interesting because he was adopted, but they both suffer from delusions. And Arthur's have a source. We don't know what the source of his mother's delusions are, but Arthur's delusions have a source when he finds out later on. But he's not a criminal mastermind. He acts on impulse when he starts to feel more powerful, and especially after the killing. The killing is that first time he does that intimate dance with himself, where you could say this Joker persona is finally getting let loose, which is something that Todd Phillips explores so well in the second film. The duality of Arthur Fleck and Joker is just really well done. It's one of the best parts of the sequel. But Arthur really just acts on impulse. He does things most people would never do. Most people wouldn't shoot 3 people on a subway. Most people wouldn't break into, or not break in, but sneak into a theater where Thomas Wayne is and the social elites are watching a theater. Most people wouldn't sneak in. He's doing things that are out of the norm, and it's sort of just taking advantage of situations. Most people wouldn't follow a neighbor on their morning trip, commute, dropping off their kid and going to work. Most people wouldn't do that. And, you know, Todd Phillips described Joaquin's take on Arthur as a guy who is searching for identity, who mistakenly becomes a symbol. His goal generally is to make people laugh and bring joy to the world, which is so ironic because he can't even laugh or bring joy to himself. As you pointed out, he has so many fake personas and fake laughs. But Arthur's a guy who, so many points in this movie, he does things that could lead to a horrible sin, a horrible crime, a horrible act. You know, following somebody to work who you don't even know, that is disturbing and could lead to something terrible. And, you know, sneaking into a theater performance, that could lead to something terrible. Arthur does many things that, sneaking up into a house, going to the Wayne Manor and doing this magic show for this young boy, putting on a red nose. Stranger danger, this is insane. This is insane stuff.
It's okay, I'm a good guy.
Putting your fingers in a boy's mouth to force him to smile. Crazy. These are things that could lead to terrible, terrible acts of murder, of crime, but they don't until Joker does commit a horrible crime on live TV. He's already done crimes. He's already committed murder. He's killed his mother later on in the film, obviously. But committing a murder live on TV, it was not planned out that way. Arthur was not planning on killing Murray.
Yeah, they showed you multiple times what his plan was.
His plan was to kill himself. He rehearsed it multiple times. He was rehearsing, watching segments from other people and guests on the show in his living room, fake talking. You want to hear a joke? Knock, knock. Fumbles with the gun, does it a few times. His goal and his plan is not to kill Murray. His plan is to kill himself on live TV. That's his way of sticking it to the system, of getting back at everything, a world that doesn't like him or doesn't love him or don't want anything to do with him.
And he thinks it will create applause. He imagines the applause.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter because his life will be over. His life maybe will make more sense now with his C-E-N-T-S spelling of sense. But instead, Arthur accidentally becomes a symbol for the city, for the protests, for the revolution, the anti-rich sentiments, and it gets expanded on when he admits to the murders on Murray, and then he kills Murray. Again, he was going to kill himself, but the conversation he has with Murray leads to him getting frustrated and angry. When he gets the call from Murray's booker, you would imagine that Arthur should have been ecstatic, dancing around. He answers that phone with no emotion, and he accepts the invitation to come on Murray's show with zero emotion at all. He says, yeah, that sounds great. Versus any other time he would have been ecstatic. Even when he's watching himself on the TV in the hospital, thinking, oh my God, I'm on Murray. He's so happy about it until he sees that Murray's making fun of him. Joker was not going to kill Murray until the conversation took a downward turn for him, and he started acting on impulse and getting upset and angry, and just deciding for once to finally, like he did with the guys on the train, to kill them. He's got a gun in his pocket. Why not kill myself? Why not kill Murray? Murray brought me on here to make fun of me, to put me down, just like the entire city, just like the system. Here's me making a stand finally. It was probably a 50-50 shot decision whether or not he's going to do it, and then he tells the knock-knock joke and decides, enraged, to take it out on Murray. And so he accidentally becomes this criminal, not mastermind, symbol for the city.
You're awful, Murray. And I would also say that, so when he commits the murders on the train, well, so I look at, he didn't murder the first guy, but the second two were murders.
You know what I mean? The first one's self-defense?
First one's self-defense.
Still manslaughter.
Yeah, second one, closer to first degree. You could say it's probably second-degree murder. But the third one's absolute murder.
Yeah.
Cold-blooded murder. The guy's crawling on and trying to get away, and he shoots him in the back. That obviously, like you said, creates the Joker, the clown mask symbol, anti-authority, anti-establishment, anti-rich, and creates these protests. And when Arthur sees these protests, he sees the newspapers.
Well, the protests are already happening, but now there's a symbol for them.
Yeah, he sees that they're wearing clown masks. He sees the newspaper. He sees that first person with the clown mask in a cab driving by, and it makes him smile
on his date.
Yeah, on his date. He's like, he tells his therapist, people are finally noticing him. And from when I watch this movie, it's more that he doesn't even care about the movement, and he says that, Amara. He doesn't care about the movement, but he thinks they're noticing him. You know what I mean? It's attention. He exists now. He has an impact on the world for the first time ever. And that idea is what encourages him. And not just to kill Murray, but to kill the other clown actor, the tall guy in his apartment.
Well, I mean, I think that's impulse too.
No, yeah.
I think that everything's an impulse.
But it freed him up to give into his impulse. Where you can imagine, Arthur's always had the pent up rage. He's always had it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's putting himself in scenarios. If he acts on an impulse, it could be terrible.
But what I'm saying is he's always had that rage inside of him. But he does it privately. He kicks the trash outside in the alleyway when he gets fired. I mean, not fired, but talked down to by his boss. He kicks the trash rather than doing something, like killing his boss, which second half of the movie Arthur would have done. He kicks the trash outside, probably fucking up his foot. Before that, and we get that great shot from his back in the locker room, and he's pulling apart the boots, and he's letting out all of his rage that way. These are instances. Todd Phillips put these in here, and Scott Silver put these in here to show that these impulsive killings didn't come out of nowhere. They purposely showed he's got that fury inside of him, but once he kills those guys on the train, it allows him to let out the fury like he did on the train in the future. That's why he kills the coworker. That's why he kills Murray. It's not planned. They're all impulsive, but he's not restraining himself anymore like he used to. He used to do those in private, and he went from kicking trash to stabbing a guy in the eyes. You know what I mean? And so the attention he was receiving, and for him, the positive outcry of the public for what he did encouraged him to give into that impulsivity and to give into that beast within.
Yeah, because he takes a beat down in the first act, in the opening sequence, and he doesn't do anything about it afterwards. He doesn't act out in rage. We don't see him attack a wall or anything like that. And so it's really not until later on in the film where he gets the courage finally to do it, and then the gun, killing the guys on the subway, really leads to everything.
He does do something after the first beatdown, though.
What's he?
He makes a joke.
Hits the flower.
So yeah, after the kids leave him on the ground, and the camera pulls back. He could have just kept lying there, but instead he reaches into his pocket to press on the pouch, which lets water out of the flower on his chest to try to make it into a joke in some way, to put on a smile.
Yeah, and he's such an ironic character because his mother calls him happy and tells him you were put on this earth to bring joy and laughter to the world. But as you brought up earlier, when he's in the opening, trying to force a smile out of his face, and he cries, he can't even make himself smile. He can't even make himself laugh. He can't even bring joy to himself. And he's such an unreliable narrator on first watches. This movie is so good and so twisty. And, it gets you because you're trying to decipher what is Arthur's reality versus what is his fantasy. And this is explored again so super well and in so much more detail in Joker Folie à Deux. The reality of Arthur and the fantasy of Arthur. And obviously the fantasy we get really early on in the movie when he's watching Murray with his mother. And we dive into this crazy fantasy of him being in the crowd, saying, "I love you, Murray," getting called. Who is that? Can we get the lights on? Come on down here, young man.
I take good care of my mother.
Talking about his mother. Oh, wait, I live with my mother too. And Murray says really nice things to him. He says, I would give up anything to have I wish I had a son like you in my life, basically.
He's like, I would give up the show to have a son like you. And
Yeah.
hugs him.
Gives him a hug.
The father he always wanted.
And then we cut to Arthur just sitting there watching the program.
Yeah.
In the bed. So his fantasy is prevalent throughout the entire course of the film, but it's blended with reality so well. And I think the elevator scene with Sophie is one of the best examples of it, which I want to get into after our intermission.
Yes.
Now, before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Patreon is the best way to support us because financially you're helping the show survive, and you're also getting awesome perks. Awesome perks like weekly bonus episodes exclusively on Patreon. You get access to the ad-free version of every single episode. So if you want to listen to this episode ad-free, you could listen on Patreon. You also get access to our Discord. We just did a watch party. We watched Fantastic Mr. Fox last week with some of the boys. It was a great time. And, it's just the best. We love our patrons, future, past, and present. The show would not be possible without all of you, so thank you all so much. You can also leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. These ratings are integral to our show's growth and helping us get discovered by new people. They add reputability. They're just very important for podcasts. I know everyone asks you to do that for any other shows you listen to, but that's because it works. At 5,000 Apple ratings, I'm getting a tattoo of Anthony's choice.
4,000.
I had 4,000 Apple ratings now.
It.
Oh my God, we're only 2,000 away. So get those numbers up and we'll be getting a tattoo for me somewhere. And another great way to support the show is just share us. Word of mouth is the best way for a podcast to grow. Share us with your family and friends. Let everyone know about our Joker episode. Send them our Joker interview. Show your friends how proud you are of the boys interviewing Todd Phillips, etc., etc. Just share us. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave those likes, comments, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everything. You know this. You know the stuff.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. We just got some new posters in from movieposters.com. I got some spooky season posters.
Woo.
If you look on my left here, I have this amazing Dracula poster.
It's great.
Man, it looks beautiful. And then I have an American Werewolf in London right here.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, and then a Nightmare on Elm Street behind me as well.
It's great.
I'm going to reposition them just to see them a little bit better. Because I'm just getting so buff, I'm blocking them.
Too much mass, bro.
James got this great Kill Bill poster. It's huge.
It's a tall one. It's the 36 by 24.
It's a big one.
It's Beatrix, the yellow one. It's my girl right there, right on my right shoulder.
We got these from our amazing sponsor, movieposters.com. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library. All sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. From your favorite Hollywood blockbusters like Joker to your favorite Hollywood classics, international movies. They have original prints, alternate prints, whatever your movie heart has for desires. That doesn't make sense, but they got it, man. They got your needs met.
They got the needs met.
High quality stuff. They're beautiful, very affordable, and made even more affordable thanks to our coupon code Raiders10. So use that code at movieposters.com and it'll get you 10% off your order today.
All right, let's get into Framed, Anthony. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, let's get framed. 1 second.
So Framed, the first image we have. All right,
I was trying to post a TikTok.
We're looking through a windshield. We have some digital
After Earth.
No, it looks like, is that Star Wars? No, it's not Star Wars. After Earth? No, I don't think it's After Earth. I feel like it's a Star Wars movie or something like that.
This?
Or maybe
NC-1701.
Maybe Chappie.
It's some kind of sci-fi movie.
I'm gonna guess Chappie.
There's an explosion happening.
Nope, not Chappie. Okay, now we're on a new image. There's some white trees with red vines. Looks like some alien creatures.
Oh, Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay,
Star Trek 2.
Star Trek 3. 2?
Into Darkness.
No, Star Trek 3.
I got it. Star Trek Into Darkness.
Star Trek Into Darkness, like I said.
Get the fuck out of here.
Got that pretty quick.
Yeah, I remember it has the red
Vines
and leaves with white trees, and I clearly remember that from, it was the teaser of Star Trek Into Darkness. They showed like Kirk and one of the others running away from that tribe and jumping off a cliff, and that was like part of the teaser trailer.
It was Kirk and Spock.
Spock, yeah. Obviously Spock, yeah.
All right, let's get to our intermission, Anthony. And begin with our movie quotes competition, sir.
Let's go.
Okay. Here we go. You know why God made farts smell? So deaf people could enjoy them too.
Is that Jack Black?
No.
I don't know.
Coda.
Obviously. I should have thought about it. All right.
Yes, you did.
The mistake you made was you killed my friend. So I'm going to kill each and every one of you. And the only disappointment in it for me is that I only get to do it once.
Unforgiven?
Nope.
I don't know.
Equalizer 2. When Denzel's threatening Pedro and the guys.
That's right.
And he does the finger guns. Catch you later. It's great.
All right, moving on. Guess this movie release year, Anthony. 7 Psychopaths.
2016.
2012.
Damn. What year did Triple Frontier come out?
I feel like that's pre-COVID. 2018.
2019.
One off.
The recent ones are kind of tricky sometimes.
Okay, Anthony. Who directed, pop quiz time, who directed Easy A?
I don't fucking know. I have no idea.
Will Gluck.
Who's Will Gluck?
He also did Peter Rabbit. He did Anyone But You, Friends with Benefits, Annie, Michael J. Fox show.
All right. I got you.
Iceland.
He had his own show?
I
didn't know that. I had no idea. Michael J. Fox show.
Yeah, 2013, 2014. I think it was probably because he was on Curb a lot. So they probably gave him a little,
He's great on Curb.
little spin-off.
They have great.
There's a
scenes.
great bit with Michael J. Fox on Curb. I can't remember the episode, but it has to deal with cans of soda that obviously if you shake them. Yeah, and I think yeah, so
Larry's like he opens a can and it sprays all over him, and he's like,
he thinks someone shook it on purpose. He doesn't realize that Michael J. Fox. He thinks Michael J. Fox did it on purpose, but Michael J. Fox just he has the disease, so he.
But then doesn't Michael J. Fox do it on purpose?
Yeah.
After that,
It's so funny. Such a funny bit, man.
That's good.
They probably got together like, all right, what's something funny we could do with you?
That's great. That's
Oh
funny.
man, it's so good. I love that show.
Okay, what Matt Damon film did Pedro Pascal co-star in?
Co-star with Matt Damon?
Co-star with Matt Damon.
What?
Rack your brain about that.
Whoa. Pedro Pascal. It's got to be an old movie then.
They share virtually every one of their scenes together. They are in the movie together the whole time. Think about it.
Hero. Pedro Pascal and Matt Damon movie. I mean, the only Matt Damon movie I feel like I don't think I've seen is the Shrinking one.
No, he's not in that.
But it's not that. I'm gonna guess. What's the Suburbia one where he's
Suburbicon? Nope.
I don't know.
The Wall. The Great Wall.
Oh my God!
Pedro Pascal
Pedro's in
plays.
that?
He's the other warrior that they recruit. Him and Matt Damon are like pals, and they journey together.
What? I don't remember that at all.
It was his first. It was honestly Pedro's first huge movie role in a major way. Was The Great Wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a big film.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was a good question, man.
Thanks, man. I try.
You're welcome.
It's not that good of a movie, though. All right, let's move into our unsubscribes.
Who we got?
First up, The Northern Journey. I made a post about, I dropped stills from my new short film. Thanks to everybody for sending so many kind words.
Looks so good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. The Northern Journey wrote, if a car doesn't explode, I will unsubscribe. Looks great. Fantastic work.
Car in 1890. There were there, but pretty rare.
Ryan Pat Saladis, 1990s. I've scrolled through the entire comment section and not one person pointed out that American Psycho came out in 2000, not the 90s.
We fucked up.
And for that, I have to unsubscribe. Still love y'all. We all make mistakes.
Yeah, we did make a mistake on that.
I didn't put it on, but I did see it there and didn't say anything. So I'm just as guilty.
Guilty as charged.
Yes.
We've failed you all.
Blanked on that one.
We've failed you.
Totally blanked.
Sorry, everyone.
Michaela on Letterboxd. Finally, the Equidium mention. I will be staying subscribed. We shouted out her top 4. Thanks, Michaela. All right, next up we got the Lana Dog on 90 Movies. No Theodore Rex? Unsubscribed. Theodore Rex didn't make it. Sorry, pal. G-Slide on Letterboxd Recap. I have to Insta to send top 4? Unsubscribe. Carterino. Leaving out the mummy is heinous, devious, bad, awful, diabolical, and wrong. Unsubscribed.
That's our biggest error, I think.
There were 2 errors besides that. Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh my God, we didn't have Eyes Wide Shut or Boogie Nights on there?
Yeah.
Wow, we fucked up.
Fucked up, man. Absolutely fucked up.
I can't believe you let that happen.
It's hard with a whole decade.
When you do whole decades and you're like going through all the lists that you search online, sometimes just a few slip through.
Slip through.
I can't believe the mummy slipped through in Eyes Wide Shut. Wow.
Yeah. Connor Wilkins, you guys have the most beautiful voices ever, so I'm going to have to subscribe. Gotta go find out why my ear is bleeding, though. That one's good.
At first, I was like, wow.
All the screaming. On 80s, best movies of the 80s, Waterbot, unsubscribing because I just started watching your channel the other day, and I'm 7 months late. I wrote, You got lots of episodes to catch up on. Thanks, pal.
Have fun.
Benny on our Todd Phillips clip. Question not long enough, but I won't unsubscribe yet. We'll make them longer for longer clips, guys. Don't worry. Sam Owens. Wait, you guys are dead? I made a post of the skeletons on our seats. That's an unsubscribe for me, dog. That's pretty funny.
Great photo. We have skeletons, and we put the headphones on and took photos in front of the mics. It's pretty cute.
A Milaneso, Rosemary's Baby, was watching this movie with my mom, and the dream scene came on. Due to how comfortable it made me, I must unsubscribe.
That'd be a weird scene to watch with your mom, I guess.
Arsenio Great. Friggin' awesome, dudes. Getting so great, I might have to unsubscribe, but will not. Wait, no. Yeah, unsubscribed.
Thank you.
Shine on, you crazy diamonds.
Aw, crazy diamonds.
Boris, you got Todd Phillips. Cannot believe my eyes. So I have to unsubscribe to check twice.
Hell yeah.
Check 3 times, pal. Go for it.
Pretty rad, right?
Dill Pickle on 90s movies. No mention of Power Rangers movie. Unsubscribe. Grayson Yuntz, Rosemary's Baby. I normally listen to the podcast on Spotify, but I came here to tell you both I was yelling Cowboy Bebop when you played Frame. As soon as you said anime and convenience store, I knew what it was. Since y'all never watched it, it made me unsubscribe. Definitely watch it during October since it's a Halloween movie. And be sure to watch the series, not the shitty Netflix live action one.
Copy that, Grayson.
Thanks, pal.
Grayson's been a fan of the show since 2020. Like,
yeah,
OG,
Grayson's
fan.
been there for a while. Next up, we got Jeff and Fro. I love how 2 kids are schooling me on a movie, on Rosemary's Baby, on a movie that came out the year I was born. Keep it up. Thanks for the recommendation for Snack Shack. Best movie of its kind since the way back. Sent you a DM about said movie. Unsubscribed.
I like the way back, too.
Yeah, way back's great. Also, I was looking at our Spotify polls, and there was a poll we put up about a month ago where we were debating the phrase "put it up on the wall," the poster, and you made a poll.
Oh yeah.
What does put a poster up mean? Because I put my Empire Strikes Back poster, I leaned it against the wall, standing up.
Yeah.
And I said I put up my Empire Strikes Back poster. You're giving me shit for it. You're like, you didn't put it up, you stood it up.
Yeah.
So we had a big debate. You put a poll up, and your poll said, "What does put a poster up mean?" The 2 options were hanging it on the wall or leaving it against the wall.
What are the results?
91% hanging it on the wall.
Got him. We got him, everyone.
I forgot. I will say, I looked it up. I was like, you won on that one.
That's a funny poll. I totally forgot about that. Because you were like, yeah, I put it up on the wall. Bitch, you leaned it against the wall. It's still touching the ground.
It's up. It's upward.
No,
it's upright.
Listen, look. Let's say you have a vase, Anthony. Let's say you have a vase, and you put it on the ground and it's leaning against the wall. Did you put it up on the wall?
No, I did not.
What'd you do?
I leaned it against the wall.
Thank you.
However, a vase always stands. It's
Sure.
always standing.
Okay.
Poster, you can lie it flat down, or you can put it up. I got 9% of votes though. Keep in mind,
9% of you
9%
are high as fuck.
9% of people agree.
I need to talk to the 9% of you. Oh my god. I can't believe I didn't win them all. I can't believe that wasn't 104%.
Hey, I got people in my.
I think it's probably was people just love you. They're like, I'll follow Anthony into darkness.
Into this ridiculous comment, or maybe they really agree with me, man.
Maybe they do.
Maybe they do.
It's like is a hot dog a sandwich or not?
Hey, human beings are upright animals. We're up. You know, up.
Yeah.
Standing up, just like my poster's up. It's standing upright. All right, moving on to Mason Lavender. On Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, the fact that you guys describe what happened to Marcellus Wallace as having a bad day has me laughing out loud harder than I should. I laughed so hard I was given no choice but to unsubscribe.
I forgot about that. That was funny.
1990s. This is why Superman works alone. Unsubscribed. No Iron Giant from Mason Kunstler. That's it, boys. You stay, I go. No following. Because I'm unsubscribing.
That's
great reference.
That slipped through the cracks too. You should save some of these. We're filming twice on Monday. Unsubscribes.
I'm not going to save them. We're going to get plenty over the weekend.
Okay, I hope so.
I am going through a lot of them. Alex Woodman. That college movie with Justin Long and Jonah Hill. Unsubscribed.
Accepted.
Oh, you just can't. Why couldn't you say that?
I did. I said it on the episode.
You did?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I did. I figured it out.
Austin Hade. The correct lyrics to Too Late are, it's too late to apologize. It's too late. And unfortunately for that, I have to unsubscribe. We were not saying that.
Yeah, we weren't saying that at all.
And then last one, Connor Wilkins on Rosemary's Baby. I normally just listen to the episodes, and it's really hard to understand who's talking, so I'm going to have to unsubscribe.
Our friends say that about us.
But you make me laugh, so I'll resubscribe.
That's pretty funny.
Thanks, everyone, for those unsubscribes. Those are a really funny batch this week.
That was a good bit. We have a great 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts from Carmenelle. The subject is, seems too easy, 5 stars. Comprehensive, contemporary view of film, both technical, heartfelt, and instinctual. James and Anthony are a decade younger than me at least, but hold firm with views on films somewhat anachronistic or cornered to a very tight historical window in film with amazing perspective. No complaints, only compliments and credit for research and movie instincts. Film lover, film boy!
Film boy!
This is your place for fun. Get on board and have fun with the rest of us. What an awesome review. So well spoken and written. What an excellent vocabulary. I haven't seen anachronistic written in anything in a long time. Carmenelle, thank you so much for that wonderful 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you so much. Anthony, what is your streaming recommendation for this episode?
How about you tell us yours first?
Mine is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just got put on Netflix. It's just dumb action fun. Pretty good action comedy romance.
Dumb action fun.
It's a good time, and it's a pretty sexy movie, man. It's pretty hot.
It's hot. Yeah, it's hot. It's sweaty.
But I like the concept a lot of married couple, secretly agents in rivalry organizations.
It's a very charming movie.
Yeah.
It's very hot too.
It's steamy.
It's extra steamy.
They're both in their prime in that movie.
I'm stalling because I didn't make one.
It's okay. Just say any movie that
you watched
one recently.
I got one. Blue Velvet's on Amazon Prime.
There we go.
Go watch Blue Velvet.
All right, let's get back into our episode on Joker. And before we went to the intermission, I teased talking about Arthur's fantasy versus reality and how Todd Phillips and Scott Silver blend both throughout the course of the film. So as an audience member on your first viewing, you kind of don't know exactly what's real or not. There are hints and obviously clues that you can pick up on, but it's not completely clear for everybody when they watch the movie for the first time. And I think one of the greatest parts of the film is Arthur having the revelation of all the instances where Sophie's not in his life when he thinks she is. And it's very similar to, obviously, Fight Club. Did the same kind of thing. But it still works really well. And I think one of the best moments, a really early example of Sophie not actually being in Arthur's life the way he thinks she is really early. I think it's the elevator scene is obvious. You know, we have the scene where Arthur is having a tough time, like usual. Gets in the elevator. Sophie and her daughter step on the elevator as well. And she said, which I'm sure she actually was on the elevator. I'm sure she was. But then his fantasy starts to play around with him. And his fantasy, she has a conversation with him. Oh, this building's terrible, isn't it? And then her daughter starts saying some stuff.
Yeah, Mommy, the building's terrible.
It's terrible. And then she looks to Arthur, rolls her eyes, and does blows her brains out with her fingers. And Arthur does a big smirk, but is still very reserved and keeping to himself in the corner until they get off the elevator, and then they go in the opposite directions. And then Arthur stops. He says, hey. She turns around, looks at him. He does the himself, blows his brains out, and a dramatic fall. And then Sophie just looks at him and does kind of like a weird smile, which is odd because first time you watched the movie, didn't they just have an interaction on the elevator? Clearly, what he saw in the elevator wasn't real, and what he saw afterwards was real. The hallway was real. That's why Sophie, who knows of Arthur, you know, later on in the film, like, you live with your mother, I know who you are, when he's in her apartment, she's probably aware that he has mental issues. So this is a clear example of a small blend of fantasy and reality, but these start to get bigger and bigger as, you know, he goes on a date with Sophie, which no way she would do that. And
I gotta disagree with you.
You disagree with me?
I don't think the elevator is fantasy at all.
You think that it's all real?
I think that all really happened. And I don't think her smile is one of, like, weirdness. She just gives him, like, a nice smile. Like, oh, that's nice. I think that she really did the the gestured gunshot to herself and did talk to him. And this is what made him create the fantasies. Someone gave him attention. And that's what, because otherwise, why did the fantasy start now? I mean, you've got to imagine they've been on the elevator multiple times before. They know of each other.
Maybe he always has a fantasy of her.
I think that her just having this little, small talk with another person in the elevator, and then she really did do that blow her brains out gesture. I think that's what sparked his creation of the fantasy sequences after this. So I think what happened in the elevator and hallway really happened. But then after that, none of that happened.
I think it's a blend because I feel like that smile that Zazie Beetz does as Sophie is sort of a, all right, that was weird. Why did he do that smile? I look at it as like, why did he do that? But I know he's disturbed and I just want to get to my apartment with my kids safely.
Yeah.
That's the way I interpret that smile. But obviously going forward, a lot of it's all fantasy.
Yeah.
What's he do after he kills the 3 guys in the subway? He runs home, knocks on Sophie's door, and kisses her, and she lets him in, and
he's soaking wet.
They have
intercourse.
They
do the stuff. They do the stuff that grown-ups do, and he puts it in there, and
they make a baby.
She goes, oh, and then they do that.
They do the stuff that grown-ups do. Wow, that was. I don't know why we're talking about Joker. I was like, I shouldn't say have sex. So weird. You could assume they have sex, but even before then, after he follows Sophie to work, what's she do? She knocks on his door that night. Did you follow me today? This is all fantasy.
It's like a meet cute, yeah.
It's
charming.
all fantasy because anyone who would have gotten followed to work, especially a woman getting followed by a man to work,
especially a man who looks like that,
yes,
with that haircut.
If they followed you to work, you wouldn't knock on their door and be like, "That was kind of cute. Can you do it again?" Like,
you're so funny.
You're
Arthur.
so funny. Yeah, exactly. That's a great sign that it's fake because Arthur's not funny, and so that's completely fake. The date is completely fake, especially because like Anthony brought up earlier, the comedic set, his 5 minutes of comedy, the opening is cringe. It's tough to watch of exhausting, uncontrollable laughter for 40 seconds on stage. You think a girl on a date with you would stay on the date with you after you did that? She should be walking out the door immediately. So another sign that it's all fake. Same thing with the hospital. Signs that it's fake is she's leaning back, he's leaning forward. But obviously everything with Sophie is a fantasy going forward until he's in her apartment and he's touching all of her belongings and sort of imagining he lived here in a way. And then she walks in with her daughter and asks him to leave and is terrified. Mm-hmm. That's real.
So that's why I think, because the way she speaks to him in the elevator, it's not like she's not interested in him. She's just, talking to a person in the elevator. That's why I think it's real, because in the other sequences, she played it like she was like so into him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's a difference in Zazie Beetz' performance that you can clearly see from fantasy and reality.
It's that smile though, that half smile in the hallway that it looks like she's.
But
thinking,
it's still weird.
Why did he do that?
But you could still say that if he if it was real, because it's like, oh man, he really went for it there.
Or yeah, he maybe overdid it.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. It's like, that was a little too much compared to what I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but also, I mean, when you connect it with her dialogue later, like, your name's Arthur, right? You live with your mother.
Yeah.
That insinuates that they've never had a conversation before to me.
But
that for me, that feels like they've never spoken.
She just didn't know. Yeah. I mean, she just didn't know his name, really. And I think that, I think that they've shared the elevator multiple times, because why would the sequences start? Why would the fantasy sequences start here?
Because it's a movie.
If it wasn't for that interaction.
Because
that
a movie.
It's the first person to give him attention outside of work and his mom, which are forced relationships that they have to talk to him. You know what I mean?
I think that I still hold my opinion, and I think that maybe because it happens after he gets fired, and it happens obviously after the fantasy with Murray, that he needs this fantasy to not break down completely. He needs the fantasy of Sophie.
But speaking of the jokes in the comedy routine, have you read Have you read his Notebook?
I feel like in the past I've looked it up on Google Images to just see.
I have it.
You got them. I remember many of the jokes from the film and read them when they're on screen, but there's so many in the pages.
So I have, but there's the overhead that he does, and there's 4 jokes on it. But also, what's really cool is like his journal always reminds me of like Patrick Bateman's, with like there's fucked up imagery on it. There's photos of naked women. There's like disturbing animations on it and drawings, which is really cool.
The one I remember is, I hope that my life. I hope my death makes more sense than my life. Something like that, right?
I'll tell you.
All right, go for it. I'm sure you got a whole list. I'll let you do it, man.
So I took a screenshot of his Notebook.
Wow.
And this is the overhead shot. So these are Arthur's jokes.
For a set? Not just his diary?
When he's writing jokes to prepare for his comedic night. And he's like laughing to himself at his desk.
Yeah.
And then he does the overhead. So the first joke is, why did the old man like having insomnia? Because he didn't have to sleep with his wife. That was pretty good. Why are poor people always confused? Because they don't make any sense. CENTS sense. Like
it's the second time he uses that, yeah.
Then he says he crossed out a joke. It started, how many times did the doctor tell? And then he crossed it out. Then we have, what did the crazy man say to the high-strung straitjacket? Loosen up a little. And then the worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't. And then what's interesting with this Notebook is his penmanship gets worse and worse with each joke, to the point where on his final joke, it looks very different in handwriting. And that's because we're getting the duality. Now, in this movie, Todd Phillips, like we said, explored duality a lot subtly. Arthur Fleck is right-handed, but Joker is left-handed.
No way.
So Arthur Fleck's right-handed, and in this scene, you see him writing with his left hand. That's why the penmanship is so bad on the final lines in the final joke, because that's when Joker is taking over a little bit. In the entire film, Arthur's right-handed. What hand does he use to shoot Murray with?
His left hand.
His left hand. Joker did it. Joker shot him with his left hand. There's a duality to his physicality. So this page on his Notebook showcases Arthur starting the jokes and then Joker finishing them with his left hand. That's why if I wrote it, the penmanship on the last joke is clearly someone writing with their opposite hand. Here, look at it.
No, I believe you. What I'm trying to remember, because that left hand, right hand thing's awesome. So when he's obviously accepted the role of being on Murray, and he does the rehearsal in his living room. And this is also after he's killed his mother. He's rehearsing in the living room, and obviously he fumbles taking the gun out a couple times, and he fakes suicide. Does he do that with his right hand?
He fumbles with the gun with his right hand,
and he does the trigger pull with his right hand.
It's Arthur. And he kills the men on the subway with his left hand.
Yeah.
He's holding the gun with his left hand when he kills the guys on the subway.
Wow, it's so interesting. I never even noticed that. So when he's Arthur doing the fake suicides in his living room, it's his right hand. When he kills Murray, it's his left hand.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a duality that I'm so excited for people to watch the sequel. And I don't want to spoil anything, but Todd Phillips explores this duality so much more, and it makes so much sense, especially if you revisit Joker before you see Joker Folie à Deux. And it's all done so well, and it seems like a no-brainer of why he's doing the things he's doing in Joker Folie à Deux for me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Also, fun fact, the Murray Franklin TV show font is the exact same font as the Batman animated series font.
Yeah.
And Joker's dancing, which he does in the bathroom, actually very much mirrors Murray Franklin's opening dance when he enters his stage. He does a lot of the same things, especially with his left arm stretched outward and then doing the spin. And so Joker in his dance is emulating the showmanship of Murray.
It's a great point. Speaking of dancing, obviously everyone's up in arms about Joker 2 being a musical and there's singing and dancing.
Not everyone, but a lot of
people. You should see our comment section on our videos.
It's insane.
Now, Arthur dances 8 times in Joker. There are 8 times Arthur dances to music or no music. The first time he dances is when he loads the gun in his living room. So obviously Randall gives him the revolver, and then there's a scene that night where Arthur puts on a musical on TV, and he's starting to dance around. He's starting to feel powerful and confident, and
With the gun.
yeah, because the gun's in his hand. He's shirtless. He's doing that interesting dance, and then he accidentally fires around in the wall. And so this is the first time Arthur dances in the movie. Second time he dances is when Anthony brought up the jokes he's writing in his joke diary.
Technically, the second time he dances with the sign.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
the
So he's
street.
dancing with the sign on the street. Sorry, I forgot about that. The next time he dances is when he's writing his jokes. So especially after he comes up with the last joke, he does this sort of dancing movements inside his chair as he's writing his jokes because a little bit of the Joker's coming out of him right now. And you could argue that Joker's coming out of him when he's holding the gun for the first time. This Joker, this maybe other duality, this other personality that is a more confident, vengeful person. And then obviously after murdering the guys on the train is the really big dance in the first half of the film, that very natural, organic, almost intimate dance he does inside the bathroom, the green lighting. It's a very iconic image from this movie. The next time that Arthur dances is when, the That's Life credits are rolling of the Murray Franklin show. He walks in the room. His mother was watching Murray Franklin. He wakes her up. The credits are rolling. That's Life by Frank Sinatra's playing, and he stands his mother up, and he dances with her in the living room.
You're missing a dance.
What we got?
The guys on the train dance, and the finance bro sings a musical number, bringing the clowns. He sings and dances for 45 seconds.
Yeah, I'm talking about Arthur dancing.
Oh, no, but I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that's another musical sequence in
yeah.
the film.
So I didn't miss a dance for this list because it's
Okay,
not
I didn't phrase it right.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying
yeah.
there is another... That's an actual musical dance number.
100%.
He's spinning around on the pole.
Absolutely.
It's great, yeah.
It's a musical number. Next up, we have Arthur is inside the theater that he sneaks into of the modern times screening of the Charlie Chaplin film. And he's inside the waiter outfit, the red bellboy outfit, and he's dancing at the top of the stairs watching the film. Next, when Joker is creating his Joker makeup, he's accepted the invitation to be on the Murray Show, and he's dancing to music while he's creating this makeup. He's dyeing his hair green. He's painting his face. He is dancing his
Tidy
ass
whities.
off. He's killed his mother. He's ready to go. And he even licks the paint.
My mom died. I'm celebrating.
Yeah. The way he says it. Yeah, my mom died. I'm celebrating. I love how the other guys don't pick up on that. Or they're just too weirded out too. The next time he dances, which Anthony brought up earlier, is his introduction to the Murray Franklin show, waiting for the curtains to draw. Then he comes out, does a couple spins, and dances to the stage.
Steps.
Yeah, the steps.
Yeah.
The steps, of course. The steps.
That's the longest one.
Yeah, the dance number on the top of the steps going down the Joker stairs. Of course. And then he dances, does his Joker dance, you could say, his Joker dance, when he's on top of the police car after he's been rescued or accidentally crash rescued from the police cruiser. And he's on top of the hood. He wakes up and he sees all the people around him. He puts the blood on his mouth to create the Joker mouth, and he starts doing his Joker dance around everybody, the mob cheering and screaming for him. And then the final moments of the film, after the therapy session ends and he walks out of the room with blood-stained footsteps down the white hallway, he starts doing his Joker hip thrusts with his elbows and pushing them in and doing some dances. Then he runs left, then he runs right, then he runs left, then he runs right again. A very Charlie Chaplin-esque kind of thing. And so the movie ends with a dance.
In a song.
In a song.
He sings That's Life.
That's Life, Frank Sinatra.
And
so 9 or 10 musical dances from Arthur alone.
You missed one.
What do we got?
He dances after he shoots Murray.
Oh, he
He
does
stands in front of the camera.
And then he stops.
He does like a couple of hip thrusts to the side and left and right, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about
He does
that.
a little 1-2 step right there.
It's a quick one. He's like, bump, ba-dup, 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 ba-dup. All right.
Yeah, and the singing at the end of this movie, it's not. I mean, that's like very much the tone of the sequel. You know, this sequel is Joker Folie à Deux. It's not an old Hollywood musical. There are not 12 4-minute dancing musical number sequences. That's not how the movie is. Yes, it's a musical, but it's not how people are afraid it's a musical. There are some big sequences, but think about the final scene in this film. It's actually more like that. And doesn't it work great in this scene?
Yeah.
Isn't it fantastic? That's more in line with what the sequels got in store in terms of musical-esque quality. There's singing and dancing, but a lot of people who are up in arms over it, and they're literally refusing to see it. It's not what you think it is. And also, I don't think people have seen... I don't think a lot of these people who are complaining have seen a musical besides La La Land.
Probably not, yeah.
Everyone's saying, oh, it's a new La La Land. It's like, there's so many musicals. There's more... I mean, I don't know. I think that it's like the only musical people watch nowadays.
I don't watch a ton of musicals, but I'm not going to complain about it. And
Yeah.
is when we first found out about Joker 2 being a musical, you can go back to that movie news episode a year and a half ago. We were stoked.
We got the tape.
We got the records.
Yeah, we got the records. And I'm telling you, it's more in line with what you see in this scene than what maybe people are afraid it is.
Yeah, it's like 10% of the movie's a musical, or 15%, something
And
like that.
it really works.
Yeah.
It like how it really works in this scene. And Todd Phillips talking about the background of Joker in this movie, he said he used music as Arthur's way into Joker. It's through music. Music transforms him. Dance transforms him. And so Joker Folie à Deux, like we said, it's really a natural progression from what they did in this film. And I theorized, like, I think maybe Todd Phillips wanted to do a musical with this film, but I'm sure Warner Brothers was like, hold the phone on that one. Let's maybe not make it a musical, but you can make it musical-esque.
There's DNA in there of a musical.
Yeah, I mean, look at the title card. It's a musical font. It's a musical title card.
And he's dancing.
Yeah.
Most of the posters for Joker, it's either him dancing in the bathroom or dancing on the stairs.
Absolutely.
Those are the big posters.
In musicals, it's not always singing. A lot of musicals, I mean, it's a dance sequence. It's not always a singing and dancing sequence. You know what I mean?
I think people are worried that it's going to be like High School Musical, 20 people on stage dancing the same movements. It's not like that at all.
It's not
like that. Not one moment of that.
And unfortunately, I'm telling you, man, there's movies that come out nowadays, and the internet turns against it before it even comes out, and it sours, and people are walking into this movie thinking they're gonna hate it.
The Flash is a great example.
Flash
of
is
that.
an example. The internet turned on it before it even came out, and I think the Joker 2 is gonna suffer the same thing. It'll make a lot of money.
I think it's gonna make a ton of money.
It's gonna make a ton of money, but people are just jumping onto this bandwagon of hating it for what it is. And they haven't even seen it.
No, I responded.
You haven't even seen it.
I responded to a comment on one of our videos today. I know I shouldn't have, but it was just I had to because this person was like, "Yeah, they don't understand. Like, we don't want a musical like this and blah blah blah." And I wrote, "I'm sorry. Have you seen the movie? Because we have, and it's not like that at all." They said it's like High School Musical. It's like, you haven't even seen the movie yet.
Here's the thing. It's not your movie. This is Todd Phillips' story. This is Todd Phillips' movie. That's Todd Phillips' version of Joker. It does not belong to you. And so, yeah, you could say you don't want to watch it, but to say that people don't want this, it's going to make $70 million opening weekend. People want to see this.
I hope it does.
People are curious. And I just think opinions get so extreme nowadays where it's like, how could you fathom, and it's an ego thing too. It's so egotistical and arrogant to hate something without having any context. You haven't seen it. Give it a chance. I mean, and also, why is Joker so great? It's so different from what we always had in the genre. Don't you want him to do something different again? Don't you want Todd Phillips to, like, cook? You want him to explore something and try doing a different kind of story? Or do you just really want more of the same?
It's fucking Lady Gaga, too. She's so talented.
Yeah. It's great. It's really a phenomenal movie, and I'm just so happy with what they did. And
I'm so angry that one of the best singers on the planet is in a movie singing. How could they do this?
this is not what we wanted.
Not my Joker.
Well, it's not your Joker. It's not your Joker. Not everything is about you. I just wish I could tell it to all these haters online. And it's just like, okay, go watch the same movie for the 20th time this year. Go ahead while you're on your phone scrolling through TikTok. Or enjoy it.
Whoa.
Just saying.
Anthony's letting it out, man.
That's why these Joker and Joker 2 are just, they're so great. And Todd Phillips, he did something different. there's a reason why there was the decline in superhero movies. The decline was because we were just getting the same thing over and over again, copy and paste.
People wonder why Joker made $1 billion.
This was so fresh,
fun and unique,
so new. And don't you want Todd Phillips to not copy and paste? If that's what got this movie, trying to break the rules got this movie, don't you want him to try and break the rules again? Let him do it.
in the same way that he deconstructs comic book movies with Joker, he deconstructs his own movie in Joker Folie à Deux, which that's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil, but it's a really great sequel, and I think it was a really great way to challenge himself. I'm so excited for people to check it out.
Now, there's a huge storyline I want to talk about, and it's kind of abstract and ambiguous, and that's Penny Fleck. So, Penny Fleck has been writing letters to Thomas Wayne for years. She worked for the Wayne family many years ago, and it seems as though she fell into the delusion that Thomas Wayne got her pregnant with Arthur and had a baby. However, it's deemed, and then Arthur discovers the letters. He reads one of the letters, and he's shocked, and he has that big fight with his mom, and that's what causes him to go to Wayne Manor to try and contact Thomas Wayne. That's where he meets little Bruce and Alfred, and they kick him out. And then he goes and he sneaks into that the theater performance, and then he finds Thomas Wayne in the bathroom to confront him, thinking that Thomas Wayne is his dad. And then what happens is Thomas Wayne is like, "Your mom was crazy. She was delusional. She thought we were in love, but she was out of her mind. She adopted you. She never told you she adopted you." And that sends him into disarray. He goes to the Arkham Asylum, steals her documents. Early role from Brian Tyree Henry.
I know, right?
He's huge now. And then he finds the documents and all these files about Penny Fleck, her schizophrenia, her delusionment. It also says she was lobotomized at one time. But it also has the adoption file of Arthur Fleck. And so then his world comes crashing down. And this is why when he receives the call from Murray's office, he's like not even excited about getting asked to be on Murray. Because he's just lost everything. He doesn't know the world he is in. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. However, even though the film implies that he was adopted and we get physical evidence of his adoption, we get paperwork, it's very clear and evident that he was adopted. However, there's something that puts that into question.
Sure.
There's a photograph that he finds of Penny when she's young, and on the back of it, it says, "I love your smile, T.W." Obviously, we all assume Thomas Wayne wrote that note. Now, does this imply maybe they did have a secret relationship? Why would Thomas Wayne write this note to a member of his staff? Now, so hard.
I thought it was a real question. I thought
rhetorical. Rhetorical.
Can't ask a podcast co-host a question.
Why would Thomas Wayne write this about his staff if it wasn't for them having an intimate relationship? And you could assume billionaire, politically powerful, heavily influential in all parts of bureaucracy, you could find it feasible that someone like Thomas Wayne could get some fake documents made and put into a file. It's not that far-fetched. So maybe, just maybe, Thomas Wayne is Arthur Fleck's dad for real.
It's possible. Maybe Penny didn't even have delusions.
Maybe she didn't have delusions, and then what happened to her, them denying it, them forcing her out, caused her to fall into delusionment.
You know, that's possible. Maybe they lobotomized her too. That's really possible, because it's really interesting to look at, because what I like about this film is Thomas Wayne doesn't seem like a great guy. He seems like a wealthy elitist who wants more power and thinks he knows what's best for everyone. And he's kind of portrayed sort of like a gangster, maybe like mafia connections or something, because he just punches Arthur right in the fucking face. And I think that's his true colors, seeing what Thomas Wayne's really like. Because Thomas Wayne's usually portrayed to us as a really good person, someone who's trying to make the city better, obviously with Nolan trilogies, trying to make Gotham a better place.
Did you build this train, Dad?
I did. Gotham's been good to us. And in this version, he's kind of a scoundrel. And he even demeans everyone who's not wealthy. He says that quote in that interview when he's asked about the murders. He says, this clown character, anyone who hasn't made something of themselves, to me, is a clown. He's speaking to almost everyone in the city at this point because that's the majority of the people are lower class or middle class. And he's calling pretty much everyone in the city clowns. And then he's running for mayor. He has the audacity to run for mayor, too. So he doesn't seem like a good person. And he seems like he wouldn't be a good mayor for most people, because the city's just going in the direction that people like Thomas Wayne wanted to go in. It's going into decay. It's going into disarray. Government programs are being shut down. People like Arthur can't get their medication, which is a major factor as to, I guess, why. Here we go. Going back to Sophie, why his fantasies are starting up. He doesn't have any medication anymore. His medication's been shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why his fantasies start, for me, at the elevator.
Yeah, maybe. I still think that the elevator's real.
I think the elevator's 50-50. She's there, but she didn't do the headshot.
I think it was all real. I think it was.
We'll have to, next time we get to interview
Todd
Phillips, we'll hit him up. Hey, Todd, remember us? Was this scene in Joker real or not?
And like I said, so remember I said when I saw this for the first time, in the first an hour into it, I wasn't loving it.
Mm-hmm.
The Sophie storyline was part of it because I didn't realize the twist. You know what I mean? When I was watching this movie, I was like, why is this girl fucking interested in Arthur Fleck? I was like, this is ridiculous.
You didn't see the signs?
I didn't see the. Well, what are the signs?
The signs are that smile. The sign.
The sign. Come on.
For me, it was a sign.
All right.
That's always been.
What are the other signs?
I've always been weirded out by that smile.
Okay. What are the other signs?
The other sign, like I said, is taking her to an open mic night, and he just has this crazy laughing fit.
Yeah, but there's like no real clues.
That's a clue that no normal person would stay there.
But here's
and then following.
Yeah, but then
knocking on the apartment door saying, "Did you follow me today?" That was kind of cute. That's a sign.
No. There's no real clues. I think these are. So you're telling me when you first watched this movie, you were like, these are not really happening.
I didn't say this is fake. For me, I was like, this is odd. Something's off. I wasn't completely like, oh my God, she was never there. It's one of those things where I'm like, I know something's off. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's off. That's why I wasn't liking it, because I was like, this feels off. But also the comedy of show, he has the horrible opening, but then there's a quick montage of people laughing and applauding. Mm-hmm. So then Todd Phillips does add to the illusion that maybe he had a good set.
Maybe he did.
They'd imply that. You know
laughed
what I mean?
at some of his jokes.
That's funny. They're funny. Yeah. A couple of them are funny.
I like the Stray Jacket one.
The Insomnia one's funny.
Yeah.
But they implied that he had a good set at the end. Like, even though he started shaky, he ended up having a good set. You know what I mean? So they implied that maybe she was entertained for real.
True.
You know what I mean? And so that's the reason why an hour into the movie I wasn't loving it. But then when we got the reveal and the reality, I was like, oh, shit, that's fucking awesome. And then his friends come over. And then I was like, this movie's amazing. One of the best scenes is when the other clown performers come over. And he came to...
Gary and Randall.
Randall was asking about the gun. And he wanted to know what Arthur told the police about the gun. And I fucking love Arthur. Before this, right before they come, he's doing his makeup, right, for the Murray show.
Yeah.
I think that Joker is scarier looking with just the plain white makeup on.
Yeah, that with the blood splatters is such a good look.
But just plain white makeup and green hair, it's a horrifying look for a human being. You know what I mean? And it's scarier than when he has any of the eye or mouth makeup. It's really disturbing in the nose. But when he stabs Randall in the chest, in the neck, and then in the eye, and then he bashes his head over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, this movie just became really incredible. And adding the comedy to the scene where he's like, Gary, go ahead, just close your eyes and walk by.
Go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'm not going to hurt you.
Gary approaches the hallway, and then Arthur, just to scare him as a joke. It's so funny. Like, I thought he was going to kill him. And then Gary goes to the door, but he can't reach the lock. And then it's just so funny. Like, he needs to ask the killer, the maniacal serial killer, to open the door for him. It's really, great comedy.
And it's really Joker at this point because he's so happy. He's so content.
And even that, again, that line of, my mom's dead, celebrating.
So funny.
That's where the film, it's like
Soaring for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. From then on, it's just magic. And then we get, the stair dance. But I also love, after the huge riot in the train with the cops, Shea Wiggum and the other guy, and they're attacked by the mob, and Joker helped incite this new riot, and he takes off his mask and he does a little twist and dance, and then he runs off and he walks away. It's the shot of Joker's walking to the camera, towards camera in slow motion, and then there are cops running past him. And he's just got this strut. He's like, I'm the fucking man. They can't even touch me. They're looking for me, but they're running right past me.
Smoking cigs.
Ripping a butt in slow motion. I was like, this is the coolest. I would never have imagined a Joker like this ever. It's so cool.
I remember the theater experience, and I remember specifically jaw on the floor for the last 30 minutes of this movie. And it was such a terrific ending, and it blew me away. But before we get to more on that, can we go back to Penny Fleck and her delusional psychosis?
Absolutely.
And again, she's guilty of endangering welfare of a child. Arthur steals those files from Brian Tyree Henry and finds out about the child adoption. We learn about his abuse. She let her boyfriend abuse Arthur. He was found chained to a radiator with bruising and burns all over him, and he was taken away. And then he was eventually given back to Penny, his mother. And so that interesting question of whether or not she's his biological mother is ambiguous, because you kind of have to ask yourself, if Arthur's really adopted, then, and if she really did suffer from delusional psychosis, then clearly they're probably related and probably blood. But if her delusional psychosis was brought on by medical disinformation and malpractice and corruption from Thomas Wayne and his power and his influence of making her seem crazy and lobotomizing her.
And making her crazy with a lobotomy. And like you said, he seems like a bad guy.
Yeah.
In this world, it seems like Thomas Wayne could do that.
And then Arthur developed his delusions organically from trauma and from his past and the pain he suffered as a child. That both make sense. Both can work, whether they're blood or not. The delusional psychosis, Arthur either develops it naturally from his environment growing up, or it's something that's passed down to him. He developed it to survive, and this is something that's obviously explored in this film, but explored in the second film as well. And I think that it's all connected to Joker in a lot of different ways, the fantasy versus reality. We're talking about the duality of this guy, of Arthur, of Joker, and being basically really a different person when he's Joker. A lot more confident, a lot more powerful, funny in a lot of ways. And even on the Murray Show, he's very entertaining. And the sequence is great getting to Murray. And especially I love when he's in the green room, his makeup's redone. And I like how his makeup's not perfect. It's sort of one triangle's a little bigger than the other one. I like that detail. And the conversation with them at first is really great, because the look on Arthur's face is he's giddy as a kid when De Niro's there with Mark Maron. And they're asking him questions, giving him the rules. And then they're about to walk away, and he gets clearance, obviously, on the makeup and everything. And
Joker, okay, it's good.
And even though Joker's been very giddy and very polite and grateful to be there, then he asks Murray one thing. When I come out, can you introduce me as Joker? And then he gets sinister. And Murray's a little confused at first. Then Joker says, "It's what you called me when you showed me on your show. You said I'm a Joker." And then Murray doesn't really pick up on what's happening and how sinister he's really being. He's like, yeah, sure, that works. Joker it is. If that's what you want, we'll go for it. And then that's the Joker that's eventually unleashed in the second half of the interview on stage.
He was birthed by his father figure.
Who was?
Joker.
Oh, okay. It's
Murray Franklin, his father figure. And the father he always wanted birthed Joker for him.
Gave him his name.
Yeah, gave him his name. Pretty cool, huh?
Wow, that's great. His surrogate father gave him his name.
Yeah, pretty good.
Murray named Joker.
Yeah.
That's great.
The man he wanted to be his father. He dreamed being his son.
And his set is so great. You know,
I love the spinning dance intro.
Waiting, obviously, behind the curtain, like we talked about. Cigarette. The guy, like, what is going on?
Yeah,
Comes out. The double spin, kissing the old woman. And then it's just really great to see as an audience member for the first time and then rewatching it. What would you do if you're the screenwriters and director of this film? How would you approach this scene? And I think it's really smart to approach it where Joker's being very quiet at first and coy and waiting for the right moments to kind of strike with his dialogue and his jokes. And of course he'd be uncomfortable, and of course for people to watch. And of course he'd be awkward on camera because he's not a good guest. He's not saying much until he's asked for a joke, and he pulls out his joke diary, his joke journal.
He's got a book.
This is new. He brings a book. And then he starts to do his jokes and his bits. But I think it's a great way to open the interview is just him being awkward and quiet.
And it's really the sparring match between him and Murray that instinctively, impulsively makes him kill him. It's when he brings up the murders on the subway and Murray goes after him for it.
Yeah, it gets brought up because he's asking about, so is this a political look? And he's like, I'm not with them.
Yeah. And that it's really things take a dark turn because Murray starts like trying to dismantle him and talk about how awful he is and the things he's done, where then Joker is trying to then combats that with, look how awful society is. You're awful, Murray.
Have you ever left the studio?
Yeah. And this was all unexpected for him, for Arthur and for Joker. This wasn't the plan, but this is what led to, rather than killing himself, killing Murray. Because he's finally essentially taking out vengeance on society. And Murray is a representation of overall society because he compares it. You guys deem not just what's right and wrong, but what's funny or not. And so Arthur's taking out his frustration, his suffering from society, and he's inflicting it onto Murray, who represents that
on live TV. Yeah, because Murray's talking about the three victims who were killed by Joker as these tragic victims, and Joker says, if it was me who died and was on the ground, you'd walk right over me. You don't even notice me. No one notices me. And I think there's a really misinterpretation of this sequence in this movie where people think that Todd Phillips and Scott Silver and the film in general justifies murder in the right scenarios. This movie does not justify murder with Joker. Joker's not a hero. They're not trying to prove a point that it's okay to do things like this. Just Joker's a disturbed person. He's a very aggressive reaction. And this is not promoting that at all. I think people get this twisted. I see all the time people call this like an incel movie. It's like it's made $1 billion. What are you talking about?
It's Joker.
A movie.
It's Joker.
But they're not justifying this type of behavior. It's a supervillain. Jesus Christ, everyone.
I love Joker, and I'm not an incel.
Yeah,
that makes no sense. The arguments like that make no sense.
It's just fucking dumb shit. But what I was saying was how Joker is finally being seen. And I was talking about, what was I talking about? How the guys got killed. Murray said that it was tragic. Where was I going with this? Okay. He says, I killed those guys because they were awful.
Mm-hmm.
And the back and forth between them is Joker justifying it for himself. And what I think was so great about the dialogue with Joker here specifically, he doesn't realize it, but he's saying all the things that the people protesting and rioting are thinking. He's saying all the things that their signs say. He has their sentiments lined up with him, not as a leader, not doing it on purpose, but by accident. And then him killing Murray live on TV after saying all these things, confessing to the murder, laughing about it, finding it funny. It turns him into a symbol for the rest of the city by accident, not by design. Because again, Joker was supposed to kill himself. And it's so similar. You said earlier, Joker killing Murray wasn't the plan. He comes up with a second plan on improv. Massive influential film in this movie, Taxi Driver, third act of that movie. Travis's plan isn't to go save the girl. That's his plan B. his plan A is to assassinate Palantine. But then
Great point.
he has another plan, backup, good to go. His plan
backfires
changes for different reasons, but very similar third act.
Yeah. And I really love, after this, he cuts to the stage camera, and we see the Joker when he does a little dance, and he goes right up to the camera, and he speaks to the lens, and then it cuts to the card, the please stand by card. But then we pull back to the entire control booth of a bunch of different news stations reporting on it. And I think it was really fantastic seeing the news, the replays, the sensationalism, the immediate sensationalism of the murder on TV, and how it's immediately played all over television for advertising revenue, essentially.
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
A part of the riots is because of the sensationalism of what's happening. If the media is not putting this out there so aggressively, then the city might not burn.
Yeah.
But it does.
And then we see a shot in one of the frames, he actually gets tackled by security.
Yeah. There's also one of the TVs has a Clint Eastwood movie playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, which one is it?
I don't know. It's just a black and white video feed of Clint
that.
Eastwood. And before the camera cuts on him, he's about to say that's life. And remember, that's it's really brilliant.
And we cut to the full on riot in the city, and Joker changed the city. You know, the city's burning, and the cops in the car are pissed off at Arthur. They're like, look at what you like. You turn the city inside out. Basically,
the city's on fire because of what you did.
City's on fire. And he's like,
I know.
Isn't it beautiful? Car crash. The guys discover that the actual Joker's in the car, and they pull him out even though he's unconscious, and they put him on the car. The rioters gather around him, and he slowly comes to and stands up, and they applaud him. This is who he is, and he's being celebrated for it. He's being celebrated for being Joker and for being what he always had inside of him. And he takes his bow, essentially, and spreads the blood across his mouth. It's just an amazing moment of Arthur's finally being seen, and he finally feels special, and he finally feels understood. And people, for the first time ever, love him. And it's such an overwhelming feeling.
And it's an accident. This was not planned. And what an experience in the cinema for this movie. We saw it in IMAX, obviously, because it was shot in that large format digitally, 65. And I still remember that experience, that cinema experience. You know, there may be a handful every year for me that are just like really the best ones of the year. And this one was special because I was so floored in this moment. And for me, in the moment, it was one of the best endings to a movie I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I felt like standing up and cheering for Arthur in this moment because that's how powerful this movie is, even though, like I said, it's not promoting what's happening and it's not making Arthur a hero. The storytelling is so powerful and the character's so great that you're rooting for him at the end here. You're rooting for this whole sequence to play out. You're rooting for Arthur to rise up and become Joker and become Joker of Gotham, if that's the direction the story goes in the future. You'll find out in the sequel. And something he did something that he went, I think it's because he went from the lowest low, being nothing, being basically as relevant to the rest of the city and the world as a piece of trash on the sidewalk all over the city, to now being the most important symbol, whether for good or bad, and one of the most powerful symbols in the city, because he's accidentally speaking to so much of the population.
Becomes famous. He's famous. He's a star. He's a star. And then I think it really works cutting to, he's locked up again in a mental institution now, and he's having that session with the therapist. And he is happy. He's locked up, but he's himself, and the Joker's let loose. He's Joker still, you know what I mean? He's not Arthur Fleck anymore, and he understands himself better than he ever has, and he's accepted himself, and he understands his place in the world essentially. And I take this ending as he's going to take every chance he can get to kill people, just for fun. like he does his therapist.
Yeah, do you actually think he killed the therapist?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
He's got blood all over his feet.
No, but I mean, or is it a fantasy?
I think it's real. Because how did he get out? And I think the blood's real.
I
don't think that we're going to see fantasies anymore after Joker in this film.
Yeah, watch.
I think that when Joker, when he's, there's a reason why we see the fantasies, but I think that in this version of Arthur and Joker, where he's at peace, he's not living through fantasy anymore.
Yeah, for
he's
me,
acting it out.
There's a theory that this ending scene means that he imagined the entire thing, the entire story, but I don't buy that at all.
That's no fun.
I know that's just too much.
I hate that theories like that.
But for me, I always interpreted the killing of the woman as possibly a fantasy and him running around. But
I've always thought it was real. The blood footprints, that's for the audience, not for him.
Yeah, I know. But if you look at the scene and it's interesting to watch it after seeing Joker Folie à Deux, it could go either way in a lot of ways, especially with the lighting in that scene. That warm light coming through, you know what I mean? Either way, it's fun. Either way, it's a good ending. It doesn't really matter to me whether he imagines this or not, or whether it's real, because it's a really good ending, and it's very tongue-in-cheek, and it ties into the whole funny musical dance element, the physical comedy, Charlie Chaplin influence, just running to the right of the hallway.
You mean the musical element?
Then running to the left of the hallway, then running right to the hallway being chased. It's the Little Tramp.
Oh yeah, it's once again another musical number in this film.
It's a terrific ending for a sensational film. I have a really cool fact as well that I think people may not know. So
let's hear it.
The comedy club that Arthur performs at, it's called Pogo's Comedy Club. Now, if you are familiar and know true crime really well, if you're a true crime enthusiast, you might recognize that as the stage name of John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, shit.
Who was a serial killer. And he famously was a deranged clown as well.
Here's these fun facts, too. Joaquin Phoenix revealed that his favorite part of filming was sassing off to Robert De Niro by saying, "Murray,
you get what you fucking deserve."
He said, quote, "It's one of my favorites saying Murray." Todd loved that too, and when I did that, I thought, is De Niro going to throw an ashtray at me?
Murray!
When Arthur lets himself into Sophie's apartment, he tells her, "I've had a bad day." This is a reference to the comic book, The Killing Joke, in which the Joker's theory is everyone is just one bad day away from madness.
Yeah, that's right.
There's another great improv I forgot to mention. It's when he punches out.
It's such a funny line.
He punches the clock
off
the wall. Nobody expected him to do that.
Really?
That was a piece of the set that was not meant to be broken off, and Joaquin just did it.
Damn.
Who's that comedic actor who's doing makeup in that scene?
Brian Callen.
So Brian Callen, he's like pals with Todd Phillips. That's why he's in the movie. And I saw an interview where he was talking about when he came on set and they were full storm still filming, and he had seen Joaquin on set, and Joaquin was going method, and he saw him perform, and he goes to Todd Phillips. He's like, "This guy isn't fucking messing around, is he?" And Todd Phillips goes, "You have no idea. You have no idea what he's doing."
Damn, that's so cool. He's incredible. I think, Joaquin Phoenix is one of the best of his generation, might be the best actor working today. He's up there. He has to be. He's so talented, and, this performance it's so amazing, for Heath to win an Academy Award for the Joker, doing something so terrific, and then the same character being played a completely different way by a different character, taking it to huge heights as well. It just shows how talented I think Joaquin Phoenix is, because it's such an easy character to not nail.
Oh yeah,
and to
we
not
saw that
be a great performance and just be a caricature of the character.
Jared Leto.
But to get another career best performance from an all-time actor with it, it's just so impressive.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
All right, you got anything else?
That's life.
That's life. All right, that wraps our episode on Joker. Stay tuned next week for our episode on Joker Folie à Deux. Can't wait for you all to check out this film. We think you're all really going to enjoy it. We loved the shit out of it. And become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Subscribe on YouTube. Like, comment, do all of the things. Share us. We appreciate you all so much. Take care.
See you next time.
This episode was brought to you by our chosen one patrons, Jacob Kossler and Nicholas Martin. Thanks so much, boys. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a mirror image production. Sound mixing done by Jacob Kossler. Opening music by Chase Jackson.